I was a wealthy heiress whose life ended in a tragic car crash following a breakup. At my funeral, my distant and unemotional bodyguard shed tears and ultimately took his own life out of his devotion to me. When I was reborn, I discovered that his feelings for me were profound, yet hesitant. I indulged in late-night celebrations until the early hours, and he brought me back home. Embracing him, I pleaded, "Eric, stay with me tonight." He hesitated, responding, "I can't. I'm Linda, a rich heiress." Love was a pain I had never truly felt until I stumbled deeply before my wedding. On the eve of the ceremony, my fiancé Sam hosted a gathering at a bar, and I invited my closest friend Vivian to join us. Around 1 a.m., I stepped away from the dance floor to visit the restroom. As I walked past a dimly lit room, I overheard Sam and Vivian speaking in explicit tones. Curious and embarrassed, I peered through the glass window, my face flushing with anger. Pulling out my phone to record a video, I decided to catch them in the act. Just as I was about to open the door, Eric, my bodyguard, forcefully carried me away. "Eric, what are you doing?" I protested, striking him as a strange odor filled the air and people began to panic in the bar. In the corner, I noticed a man in a blue uniform smirking from the shadows. Eric hurried with me on his back, warning, "Miss, there's a gas leak in the bar. We need to leave immediately." Once outside, Eric placed me into the passenger seat of a Ferrari and accelerated swiftly. After only about 20 meters, an explosion erupted behind us, and flames consumed the bar. Over 30 lives were lost in the gas blast. The following day, my grand wedding to Sam was called off. News of Vivian's death stunned everyone, and as a survivor, I became the target of relentless online harassment. Comments flooded in, revealing that Vivian had been invited to the bar by a friend who had fled silently when the gas leaked. "What kind of friend would do that? So heartless!" the messages raged. It turned out the friend was Linda, someone from a powerful family, which was unbelievable. I recalled Vivian posting a photo just the day before, congratulating me on my upcoming wedding. Sam had died in the explosion, and people couldn't comprehend how Linda survived. Angry and overwhelmed, I faced relentless abuse and invasion of privacy, retreating to my room in tears until my eyes were swollen red. Eric knocked on my door, softly saying, "Linda, may I come in?" Through my sobs, I replied, "Eric, I need some time alone." He stood by my door all night, offering silent support. I had considered releasing the video I recorded, but felt it was too soon after the tragedy and would only lead to more accusations. Instead, I saved it as a draft on my social media, planning to share it once things calmed down. Meanwhile, online abuse continued, and people began posting black and white images of me in front of my family's company, cursing my demise. A fan of Vivian even threw a cup of milk tea at Eric, who shielded me, getting soaked in the process. My vibrant life turned dark overnight. Eric managed to fend off the attacker and placed me back into the Ferrari. "Eric, I want to drive on my own," I insisted. "You need to change your clothes," he responded firmly. "I need to stay with you," I countered, but he maintained his stance. Frustrated, I took the keys from him and got behind the wheel. As I sped away, Eric's voice faded, and I reflected on my long friendship with Vivian. We had been friends since middle school, sharing everything, including details about Sam. I never expected her to become involved with him while pretending to support me. Sam and I were childhood friends, and our arranged marriage had genuine emotions. I believed marrying him would bring happiness. But he betrayed me before we even reached the altar, and the betrayal hurt deeply. Driving the Ferrari faster and faster, I approached a tunnel and saw a construction sign too late to stop. The car crashed and ignited, engulfing both me and the vehicle in flames. After my death, my spirit lingered above as my father fainted from grief, and my grandfather collapsed, spitting blood. My mother had passed away years earlier from illness, and my father never remarried. Grandpa and Dad had been my greatest supporters. The most shocking moment was seeing Eric at the funeral, hidden in a corner, pounding the ground until his hands bled. Eric's father had once been my dad's bodyguard and died protecting him during an incident. After his father's death, My dad employed Eric as my personal bodyguard, and for 10 years, he kept me safe without ever letting anything bad happen to me. Now, I had died because of speeding, and Eric was overwhelmed with guilt. Following the funeral, Eric drove all night to a beach I often visited. He was tall, handsome, and typically very reserved, like a robot always by my side, stoic and unexpressive. But now, he appeared lonely and fragile, as if a gentle breeze could topple him. His eyes were red, and his usually calm face could no longer hide his deep emotions. Eric took out his phone and effortlessly hacked into my social media account, finding the video I had saved in drafts. Without hesitation, he sent it out, surprising me with his technical skills. Once the explicit video was posted, the online conversation shifted dramatically. Those who had previously cursed and slandered me began to apologize and express regret. Vivian and Sam's reputations were tarnished. I expected Eric to leave after some time by the sea, but instead, he walked toward the water with a heavy heart. "Eric, what are you doing? Come back!" I shouted, but my voice failed me and he couldn't hear. The nighttime waves swallowed his form as he whispered, "Linda, Eric is here to join you," before disappearing beneath the surface. My heart ached, thinking, "Eric, why are you so foolish? My death was my fault. You're only 26, haven't married or dated anyone yet. Why must you give up like this? You're just my bodyguard. Without this job, you could have a different life. Why choose death?" When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the night before my engagement to Sam, still 6 months away from our wedding and the incident at the bar. That evening, I had reserved the bar to celebrate Vivian's latest movie. After Vivian and I drank too much, she asked, "Linda, why don't you introduce me to your fiance? You're getting engaged tomorrow, and I haven't met him yet." Influenced by Vivian, I called Sam over. After the party, Eric took me home while I let Sam escort Vivian back. If I'm correct, that night was when Sam and Vivian became involved. "Sure, I'll call him over. You keep drinking," I responded, stepping out of the room. Leaning against the hallway wall, I took out my phone to make a call and lit a cigarette. After one puff, Eric approached. "Linda, smoke less," he advised. In our past lives, whenever Eric told me to cut back on smoking or drinking, I found it irritating. But after experiencing death once, my perspective had changed. I took another puff and handed the cigarette to him with a small smile. "Help me finish this," I said. "Linda, you know I don't smoke," Eric replied, taking the cigarette without actually lighting it. He never partook in cigarettes or alcohol and didn't engage in other typical male pastimes. "You don't smoke, so I'll have to finish it myself," I insisted, trying to take the cigarette back. Instead, he held my hand and took a deep drag, his face remaining stern while the tips of his ears turned red. Was he thinking about how I had taken 2 puffs earlier? I chuckled as I watched him awkwardly finish it. "I'm going back to drink more," I declared, returning to the private room to continue celebrating with Vivian and our friends. Vivian, increasingly intoxicated, kept asking, "Linda, why hasn't your boyfriend come to pick you up yet? He should be here soon." Seeing that I was already drunk, Eric approached and lifted me onto his shoulder, leaving the bar. "Linda, no more drinking. I'm taking you home," he insisted. This was Eric's routine. Almost every time I went out, I ended up drunk and being carried home by him. He possessed remarkable strength, effortlessly carrying me as though I were a mere toy. Gently placing me inside his Ferrari, he accelerated away from my villa. Eric transitioned to a more delicate Princess Carrie, carefully setting me down on my bed. "Linda, would you like to take a bath? I can run the water for you," he offered. I took his hand and drew him into a tender embrace, whispering softly in his ear, "Eric, stay with me tonight." His ears flushed noticeably as he steadied himself, swallowing nervously before replying, "Linda, I can't." I realized that with just a single word and a simple gesture, I had touched his heart. It became clear that he had always harbored a cautious love for me, which explained his decision to sacrifice himself in my previous life. The midnight sea must have been unbearably cold. Reflecting on how I had treated him over the years brought tears to my eyes. "Eric, hold me. I'm cold," I said urgently. Without hesitation, he enveloped me in his arms. I held him close, lightly brushing my lips against his Adam's apple. His body quivered, and in a strained voice he pleaded, "Linda, don't do this." "I'm not very good at resisting you," I confessed. I paused, then continued, "Eric, if there's something you desire, go after it. How can you be certain it's impossible unless you try?" A struggle was evident in Eric's eyes as he sighed. "Linda, you're like the moon in the sky, and I'm just dust on the ground. There's such a vast difference between us." I understood he felt unworthy of me. My father always believed in matching well with one's partner, a principle both Eric and I were raised with. If not for the tragedies in my past life, I might have also believed I would marry someone of equal standing. Dust can rise to the sky, and moonlight can grace the earth, right? I whispered, seeing a glimmer of hope in Eric's eyes. It seemed my words had rekindled something in him, but his expression soon darkened, likely remembering that the next day was my engagement party with Sam. He thought it was too late, but I assured him it wasn't. "Go run the water for me," I murmured softly. "Okay," he responded, rising to prepare the bath. The following day at noon was my engagement ceremony with Sam, held at his family's luxurious 5-star hotel. Only our parents and close relatives were invited. In my past life, Sam and I had become engaged on this very day, planning to marry 3 months later. At the beginning of the ceremony, I stood up and declared, "Uncle, Aunt, I'm sorry, but I don't want to be engaged to Sam. Marriage is significant, and I need time to think it through." The relatives were taken aback, and Sam's expression changed. "Linda, we've known each other since childhood. What more do you need to consider?" he insisted. Sam and I had grown up together, sharing a deep bond as childhood sweethearts. Our families were equally matched, making us seem like a perfect match, seemingly destined for one another. I regretted hesitating in my previous life, realizing it was because I had been overly confident and trusting. My father became stern, saying, "Linda, stop joking around and take back what you just said." I shook my head. "Dad, I'm serious. I don't want to retract my words." Turning to Sam, I added, "Sam, let me think it over some more. You should truly consider if I'm the right person for you. Don't get engaged just for the sake of it." Sam looked embarrassed and tried to find a way out. "It's okay, Linda. I can wait for you to make up your mind." The engagement party ended on an uneasy note. Upon returning home, my father was ready to lecture me, but my grandfather, who always indulged me, shot my father a look and stood up in my defense. "If Linda doesn't want to get engaged, let her take her time. She's just graduated from college. There's no need to rush into marriage. Besides, I don't believe Sam is fully committed yet. It's better to be cautious with my precious granddaughter's marriage." Clinging to my grandfather's arm, I whispered, "Grandpa, you're the best." Nearby, Eric watched with a faint smile curling at the edges of his lips. At 5 p.m. that evening, Vivian called, inviting me to an outdoor camping party on a mountaintop. She specifically mentioned over the phone, "Linda, didn't you get engaged to Sam today? Bring him along and I'll help celebrate." Only close relatives attended the engagement, so it hadn't been publicly announced, and I hadn't informed Vivian. I quickly agreed. "Sure, I'll bring him." I reached out to Sam, saying, "Sam, my best friend Vivian is hosting a camping party. Do you want to come?" I knew if I asked Sam, he wouldn't decline. After all, Vivian was a well-known actress, and Sam had previously expressed a desire to meet her. Sam promptly agreed. "Sure, send me the address and I'll drive over. Remember to invite Jason." I sent him the location shortly after hanging up. By 7 p.m., I was dressed and had Eric drive my Lamborghini to the campsite. Vivian, having wrapped up her latest movie, had taken a week off from her manager and was hosting parties daily. When we arrived, drinks were already flowing, and Sam and Jason had arrived before me. Vivian was seated beside Sam, engaged in a hand-guessing game. Sam seemed colder towards her than I had anticipated. Upon seeing me, he waved. "Linda, come sit." I approached, but Vivian took my hand and guided me to sit next to her. She whispered, "Linda, I heard you didn't get engaged to Sam today. I nodded. Yeah, I'm still considering it. Sam is the president of an S corporation, and you're still contemplating. Sam is so remarkable. If you don't seize him soon, someone else might. Vivian half joked. Men can't resist temptation. You better hurry up. I simply smiled, changing the subject. Enough of that. Let's have a drink. Eric was grilling nearby and handed me some food. After a few drinks, Vivian was tipsy. Noticing how attentive Eric was being, she teased, Honestly, Eric is tall, handsome, and talented. It's a shame to have him as a bodyguard. With his looks, he could easily become a star in the entertainment industry. Vivian often praised Eric in my presence before, but I never took it seriously. However, saying this in front of Sam made his demeanor shift instantly, and he gave Eric a strange look. In my past life, Sam and Eric never got along. Sam had lost interest in drinking and took a chicken leg from Eric's grill. Let me handle this, Sam said, but Vivian was annoyed and responded sarcastically, Sam, you're so thoughtful. By the way, thanks for sending me home last night. Her words trailed off, leaving us uncertain of the rest. Sam frowned. Vivian, this is our first meeting today. I didn't take you home last night. Sam, you're so funny. Last night, Linda called you to the bar, and you sent me home and stayed a while. I couldn't listen any longer. In my past life, I had a best friend filter for Vivian, but once it broke, everything she said sounded harsh. Sam's face darkened as he looked at me. Linda, I didn't receive a call from you last night. Is Vivian mistaken? Vivian appeared pale and angrily asked, Linda, didn't you call Sam last night? I nodded. I was drunk. I accidentally called Jason instead. Vivian's face turned white as she looked towards Jason, who was grilling nearby. She was nearly overwhelmed with anger and pulled Jason aside. Sam leaned over and asked me, Why did you call Jason last night instead of me? I responded, What are you interested in, Vivian? Sam tried to smooth things over. I just want to drive her home. That's not what I meant. He softened his jealousy and spoke gently. I just hope you think of me first when something happens. As for Vivian, she's your best friend. How could I possibly be interested in her? I wanted to roll my eyes. If I'd called him last night and had him drive Vivian home, she could have easily seduced him. She's so adept at that. It was evident in my past life. In the distance, Vivian and Jason were arguing, and friends moved to break them up. I casually continued eating my barbecue. Suddenly, Jason approached angrily and connected his phone to the outdoor projector. Everyone's attention shifted immediately as a video played, showing Vivian seducing Jason in a secret recording from last night. In the footage, Vivian mistook Jason for Sam and, with drunken eyes, said, Sam, every time Linda gets drunk, Eric always takes her home. Aren't you afraid they'll do something foolish after drinking? Linda secretly loves guys with abs. She told me her bodyguard has great abs, really good to look at and touch. Sam, you're getting engaged to Linda tomorrow. Don't you want to indulge just once? Linda betrayed you. Isn't it too much for you to sleep with her best friend? The video left the group stunned, and the atmosphere grew tense as the implications of Vivian's actions became clear. I was taken aback when Vivian privately accused me of things I hadn't expected. In an attempt to halt the video, Vivian hurriedly approached, but Jason prevented her from intervening by pressing the fast-forward button. What followed was extremely inappropriate footage. In a fit of frustration, Vivian destroyed the projector, stopping the video, though the audio continued to play. Hearing Vivian call out for Sam sent chills through the audience as Sam's expression darkened progressively. He grabbed my hand and declared, Linda, your friend lacks integrity. You should cut ties with her. I recoiled from Sam's grip and glanced over at Vivian, who was crying by the side. I then confronted Sam, asking, Sam, if you had driven Vivian home last night, could you have remained faithful? Of course I could, Sam replied confidently. I don't trust you. That's why I'm ending things, I responded. We're finished, Sam. Turning to Eric, I said, Let's go home. And the camping party ended on a somber note. As I approached the Lamborghini, Vivian blocked my path, staring at me with hatred. Linda, did you intentionally bring Jason here to sabotage me? I've considered you my best friend all these years, and now you've destroyed my reputation and left me with evidence in Jason's possession. How could you be so cruel? With everything out in the open, there was no reason to hide anything. Who actually ruined your reputation? The video clearly shows who made the first move. Either you or Jason. You call me heartless? Look at the ridiculous things you said last night. You knew Sam was going to propose to me, yet you still pursued him. Don't tarnish the meaning of friendship, Vivian retorted. After she finished speaking, I instructed Derek to drive. The car sped down the winding mountain roads with Sam's vehicle trailing closely behind. When Sam called, I ignored him, telling Eric to lose him once we reached the main road. Eric agreed, and after descending the mountain, he swiftly left Sam in the dust and headed towards our usual beach spot. Once we arrived, Eric got out of the car and walked along the chilly beach. He removed his jacket and draped it over me, the scent of his cologne, a cool, woody aroma with hints of cedar, enveloping me. I had bought him this cologne 2 years earlier at an international airport, and he used it sparingly, perhaps not wanting to exhaust it too quickly. Standing by the shore, I turned to Eric and asked, "What drives someone to take their own life?" He was momentarily startled before responding. Probably when they're utterly heartbroken and feel disconnected from the world. Linda, why are you bringing this up all of a sudden? I realized that in a previous life, Eric had also felt no attachment to the world after my death. Gently placing my hand in his, I stepped forward and embraced his waist, speaking earnestly. "Eric, will you be my boyfriend?" Eric was visibly flattered, his ears reddening as he looked into my eyes. "Linda, are you intoxicated?" I lifted my chin to meet his striking face. "I'm not drunk. Am I not allowed to have feelings for you?" Drawing me closer, Eric whispered, "You've seemed different these past couple of days. Did something happen?" "Yes, something significant, but I couldn't explain it to you. I've been reborn. I just realized how much you mean to me, and I want to be good to you too." I concluded with a quick kiss on his lips. "Eric, if you have feelings for me, just respond," I urged. His hands tightened around me, pulling me nearer. His initial kiss was light, but I reciprocated, which he took as a huge encouragement. As our embrace deepened, the sea breeze intensified, and he wrapped his strong arms around me to shield us from the cold. Unbeknownst to us, Sam had discovered our location and was discreetly recording our kiss. On our way back, Eric placed me in the passenger seat, carefully buckling my seatbelt. He leaned over, kissed my forehead, and said, "Linda, my princess, I will love you with my life from now on." The following day, my father summoned me to his study, where he angrily threw a stack of photos onto the desk. "Linda, what's going on between you and Eric?" I picked up the pictures. They showed Eric and me kissing on the beach from multiple clear angles. The photography was well done, capturing the perfect moment. "Great, I'll keep these and later frame them next to my bed. When Eric and I get married, we can make a video out of these." "How sweet," I said, tucking the photos into my pocket. "Dad, as you saw, Eric and I are officially dating." My father raised his hand in apparent anger, but it was just for show. I mentally counted to 3, and he lowered his hand. "Linda, you're destined to inherit billions in the future. How can you be with a bodyguard? How can I entrust our wealth to you?" "What's wrong with being with a bodyguard?" I retorted. "Without Uncle Alex protecting you, what good would all your wealth do?" He recalled the past, remembering how Eric's father had taken a bullet for him during a trip abroad. If Eric's father hadn't sacrificed himself to save me, I would have been killed. I owe him my life, but that doesn't mean I have to marry my precious daughter to Eric. Before I could respond, he demanded, "Linda, break up with Eric. I'll provide him with a generous compensation." I firmly refused. "Dad, it's not like that anymore." He insisted, "I disagree. What are you trying to do, give me a heart attack?" "Linda, you and Sam are perfect for each other. Think it over." "If you don't, I'm cutting off your credit card," he threatened. "Fine, cut it off. It's no big deal. I have my own savings," I replied. The conversation ended on a sour note. Seeing that his threats weren't working, my father called Eric into his study. I pressed my ear against the door to listen. "Eric, your father saved my life, and I owe him. But I only have one precious daughter, Linda. She has her own life, and you're not the right match for her." Before Eric could respond, my father interrupted, handing Eric a blank check. "In this world, love doesn't matter. Just leave Linda, and you can fill in whatever amount you want on this check." Eric refused the check. "Sir, I don't want money. I want Linda." My father's face paled with anger. After a long pause, he said, "Fine, but you won't last long. Linda is just infatuated with you. When she gets bored, you'll break up." I wanted to continue listening, but the door opened and Eric exited the study. We held hands and walked away as my father muttered to himself, "These young people these days, all they think about is love. Isn't writing 1 or 2 billion on a check more appealing?" As we passed the garden, I saw my grandfather exercising. He noticed us holding hands and smiled, stroking his beard. "Linda, you have good taste. Choose someone with strong character. Money is just superficial. I told your father before that arranged marriages are pointless. The most important thing is that my Linda is happy. No wonder you've lived such a long life. By the way, Eric, treat Linda well. When you two marry, I'll give you a generous gift." Eric, slightly surprised, assured my grandfather solemnly, "I will cherish Linda." Back in Eric's room, I teased him. Wouldn't it be nice to write 1 or 2 billion on that check? He hugged me, his nose gently brushing my cheek. "Not as nice as having you," I continued teasing. "What if I get bored and leave you? Wouldn't you be losing 1 or 2 billion? Eric replied seriously. "I'll do my best to keep you entertained and support you," I responded. We then began discussing our future plans earnestly. "So, how do you intend to support me?" I asked. "Hold on," Eric said, turning and pulling a card from a drawer. He placed it in my hand. "Didn't your father say he was cutting off your card? I have over 20 million here. Use it for now, and I'll earn more if needed. The password is your birthday." I stared at Eric in disbelief. "Where did you get over 20 million? Being a bodyguard is my main job." "But I have side gigs too," Eric replied casually. "Actually, I'm also a hacker. There are numerous methods to earn money." I remembered how he had previously compromised my social media accounts by obtaining my passwords before we began dating, indicating it wasn't just a one-off incident. I asked if he could hack into Vivian's account for me. Without hesitation, Eric took out his laptop and performed some steps I didn't quite follow. He managed to recover Vivian's password, accessed her account, and used his expertise to restore her chat history. What I discovered was shocking. Vivian was simultaneously flirting with multiple male actors, models, and directors. Additionally, she often vented about me to our mutual friends. I captured screenshots of the crucial information with my phone, logged out of her account, and had Eric remove any traces of the login. When I accessed Facebook again, Vivian was trending. She had posted a melancholic status, crying throughout the night, reflecting on how friendships can fade after 12 years together. The attached photo showed her tear-streaked red eyes looking pitiful, a true actress. She had claimed to love acting when she entered the entertainment world, and it seemed she genuinely did, both on and off the screen. I couldn't believe it took me this long to see her true nature. Her fans offered comfort in the comments, urging her not to be sad and assuring her of their support. I reviewed Vivian's Facebook and noticed she had removed all pictures with her best friend Linda and had unfollowed her. She had previously mentioned knowing Linda for 12 years, so it was clear that Linda had done something deeply hurtful. Many people began attacking me, questioning if I had betrayed Vivian in some past life. This time, I chose to give her the benefit of the doubt and decided not to let myself get hurt again. Eric and I were perfectly in sync. He understood exactly what I needed. He hacked into Vivian's Facebook and asked what I wanted to post. I responded that I intended to contact Jason to obtain the video he recorded that night. But Eric stopped me, saying he already had the video from the previous evening. When Jason's phone was connected to the projector on the mountain, I was genuinely impressed. Eric altered the video by making the screen go black and only kept the audio. He edited out the key parts and uploaded it from Vivian's account. Once the recording was released, Vivian's image of innocence was destroyed. Internet users realized the truth and began to criticize her heavily, accusing her of wanting her best friend's fiancé and labeling her as deceitful. After scanning the comments for a while, my phone rang. It was Vivian. Her voice was trembling with anger as she said, "Linda, did you arrange for someone to hack my account? Do you realize that posting that recording could ruin my career?" I replied, "Vivian, don't make unfounded accusations. If I had hacked your account, I would have posted the video, not just the audio. It's a game of words. Technically, it wasn't me who hacked it. It was my boyfriend. No big deal." There was silence on the other end, and I could almost hear her agent whispering suggestions on what to say to me. Vivian restrained her anger and reluctantly said, "Linda, I want to make peace. Help me clear up that I didn't try to seduce Sam. I was just drunk and speaking nonsense. You believe me, don't you? Aren't we best friends?" I remained unusually calm and responded, "Vivian, our friendship is beyond repair. I won't help you. You're on your own." Her temper flared once more, but her agent quickly intervened. She changed her tone, saying, "Linda, ruining me won't benefit you in any way. You don't have to help clear my name, but please don't abandon me when I'm down. Your family is powerful, and I'm just a minor celebrity. I can't fight you. Please let me go." Now she was frightened of me, which was unexpected since I had been non-committal before. "Just control yourself and stop causing trouble. I don't have time for games with you. I'll play hardball if you continue to mess around. Once was enough for me." Vivian's situation deteriorated quickly. Bran and other endorsers issued statements ending their deals with her. Various penalties loomed. Her upcoming projects were jeopardized, and her negotiations for new opportunities fell apart. She had only herself to blame. The next morning, Sam called and invited me to a candlelight dinner. I responded, "Sam, let's skip the candlelight dinner. Let's meet on the rooftop and clear the air." At 3 p.m., Eric accompanied me to the rooftop where I was to meet Sam. As expected, Sam showed up, but unlike before, Eric didn't hide behind me. This time, he stood beside me as my boyfriend, causing Sam to look sour with jealousy. "Linda, haven't you had enough of this game? He actually thought I was playing around even though I made things clear last night." "Sam, I'll say it again. The engagement between our families is off. I have a boyfriend now," I stated, holding Eric's hand. "This is my boyfriend, Eric." Sam clenched his fists, trying to mask his anger. "Linda, we've grown up together. You always wanted to marry me, didn't you? I'll give you anything you want. Just stop this." I tightened my grip on Eric's hand and told Sam, "I don't lack anything. I only want Eric." Sam stared intensely at our joined hands and shouted, "So Vivian was right. You've been with your bodyguard all along. I was the fool waiting to marry you and make you the happiest wife in the world." Eric stood up and grabbed Sam by the collar. Standing 8 centimeters taller, he exuded an intimidating presence. "Sam, Linda and I officially confirmed our relationship the night before yesterday by the sea. You keep saying you want to marry her, but you've been seeing other girls. How dare you talk about making her the happiest wife in the world?" Sam had never been treated like this. He swung his fist to strike Eric, but Eric easily caught his wrist and subdued him. Sam's 2 bodyguards rushed over, and Sam shouted, "Teach him a lesson." "Yes, sir," they responded, cracking their knuckles, ready to attack Eric. However, Eric threw Sam aside and faced the bodyguards. Despite their skills, they were no match for Eric, who effortlessly defeated them. I wasn't surprised. Eric had never lost a fight and had won 6 consecutive championships in international boxing competitions, earning the title of the world's toughest man. Sam's bodyguards were left nursing their injuries as Eric turned his attention back to Sam. Frightened, Sam backed away, trying to act tough. "Eric, so what if you have a strong punch? You're still just a dog kept by Linda's family. Her father will never let her marry you. Just wait and see." Sam left the rooftop with his battered bodyguards. I clapped my hands, exclaiming, "Eric, you're amazing!" Eric held my hand and pulled me into a hug, saying, "Linda, I don't want to be your bodyguard anymore. I want to be your husband. Starting tomorrow, I'll begin a new journey to enhance my strength and financial status to be worthy of you." I had a bad feeling. Is he serious about quitting? My dad said I would inherit billions, and Eric's modest 20 million barely matters. At first I didn't mind, but then he had the audacity to say he wanted to match my power and wealth. "Young man, you've got ambition. That's commendable." "Fine, I support you," I replied, handing back the card Eric had given me with a smile. He said, "I'll wait for you to turn this 20 million into 200 million. Eric nodded. "All right, I'll earn the 200 million for your dowry and then marry you." Eric quit his job and moved out of our family's old house. He purchased a 3-bedroom apartment and invested the rest of his money into starting a bodyguard company. However, it wasn't just any bodyguard service. The guards he selected were graduates from martial arts schools and winners in various competitions, making them some of the best fighters available. His clients were primarily influential individuals, wealthy business people, and celebrities. He even assigned 2 bodyguards to protect me. Soon, something remarkable happened that shocked the entire internet. A VIP client from Eric's company was targeted in an assassination attempt during a visit. The bodyguard team responded swiftly, preventing a tragedy. The 20-person team was hired for a single event, and the VIP not only generously rewarded the bodyguards and Eric, but also contracted 6 permanent bodyguards from his company. People connected to the VIP reached out to Eric for collaborations, and his company gained overnight fame, attracting more political and business elites to hire his services. Such connections were invaluable. From that point on, everyone who heard of Eric's name respected him, including my father, who began to view Eric in a new light. Upon watching the news, he whispered that Eric was too talented to merely serve as a bodyguard for our family, particularly for Linda. Over the years, during a family get-together one weekend, my father had actually told me, "Linda, if Eric is available, you should invite him over. Dad truly knows how to adjust. Is he trying to impress his future son-in-law now, or did Grandpa reprimand him?" "Of course, I'll let him know," I replied with a grin and called Eric. Eric attended the family event as my boyfriend. Although we had only been together for 3 months, he had already transformed significantly. During the dinner, my father was notably more courteous to Eric than he had been when Eric was just an employee. Eric was now officially his daughter's partner. I leaned towards Grandpa and whispered, "Grandpa, why has Dad suddenly changed?" Grandpa responded with a warm smile. "I've been giving him quite a push lately. He wouldn't dare go against my advice." I squeezed Grandpa's arm and said, "Thank you, Grandpa." The dinner proceeded harmoniously, and my father announced that I would gradually begin to take on some responsibilities within the family business. After lunch, Eric and I decided to watch a movie in my private basement cinema. Midway through, a sudden thought struck me, and I quickly said to Eric, "Come with me to that bar I frequent. I need a drink." Eric responded, but he was already grabbing his jacket and pulling me up. "It's not about drinking," he said. "I had a nightmare last night. In the dream, the bar had a gas leak tonight, the day it was supposed to reopen. I needed to prevent that disaster. Although I didn't get engaged to Sam, the story changed. But just in case the gas was still going to leak, those innocent people didn't deserve to perish." "What kind of dream?" Eric inquired as we walked. Thinking quickly, I fabricated a story. "I dreamt the bar caught fire and many people died. I suddenly felt uneasy and had a bad premonition. Let's go check it out." "Sure," Eric agreed. During the drive to the bar, he mentioned that the owner had recently hired a bodyguard from our company. "Even better," I nodded. "Having someone from our side would make things easier." The bar was closed for the day, but staff members were present, cleaning, testing equipment, and preparing drinks and food. Upon arrival, Eric contacted the bar owner. About 10 minutes later, the bar owner arrived with his bodyguard. He greeted Eric politely and asked what was wrong. Eric explained that he was planning to bring some important friends to the bar that night and wanted to ensure its safety. The owner swiftly directed his team to inspect the premises, and Eric personally checked the gas lines. After his inspection, he whispered to me, "I've looked thoroughly. The gas lines are secure." I was puzzled and checked my phone. The date matched the day the bar had an accident in my past life. What's happening? The bar owner smiled and asked, Eric, when will you and your important friends arrive tonight? I'll reserve the largest room for you at 9 p.m., Eric responded. Understood, the owner said, ordering his staff to set aside the biggest room. Still uneasy, I glanced around the kitchen area and noticed a man in a blue uniform inspecting the water and electricity systems. His uniform seemed familiar. Exiting the kitchen, I asked the bar owner, Who is that man in the blue uniform? He's our water and electricity technician, responsible for the daily checks of our systems and gas lines. Why do you ask? He replied. Just curious, I answered casually. I was trying to remember the details before the bar accident in my previous life. Meanwhile, the bar owner led us to the door. During the drive back, I was lost in thought when Eric spoke up. Linda, are you still thinking about last night's dream? What if it's the opposite? I shook my head, murmuring, No, it can't be the opposite. The gas is fine. Did I overlook something? Eric noticed my deep contemplation and didn't say anything. Suddenly, a memory from my past life flashed before me. Eric helping me escape the bar during the accident. From the corner of my eye, I saw a man in a blue uniform lurking in the shadows with a menacing smile. A bold thought crossed my mind. If the gas lines were initially secure, perhaps they were tampered with. The technician in blue seemed troubled. If he faced hardships and had antisocial tendencies, he might have sabotaged the gas lines. Anxiously, I told Eric, that electrician just now seems suspicious. Have someone keep an eye on him and look into his background. See if he's had any significant changes recently. Got it, Eric responded. He called the bar owner's bodyguard, instructing him to monitor the electrician. He also arranged for 2 more people to take over the shift and asked the bodyguard to investigate the electrician's background and current situation. Half an hour later, the bodyguard called Eric back. The electrician's name is Leo. His wife left him for another man half a month ago. He lost a lot of money gambling, and debt collectors have been chasing him, the bodyguard reported. Eric put the call on speaker, and I immediately recognized the truth from my past life. It was Leo, the electrician, who had caused the bar accident and died in it. Overwhelmed by his own problems, he had dragged innocent people into the tragedy. Can we detain him now? I asked Eric. Sensing my worry, Eric analyzed the situation. Catching him without evidence might alert him. If he seeks revenge on society, he might try again even if we stop him now. My team is monitoring him, and if he makes any suspicious moves, they'll apprehend him. Don't worry. I nodded. Keep a close watch. We'll act tonight at 9 p.m. That evening, Eric and I went to the bar. He brought a bodyguard to pose as an important friend. We waited in a private room for the right moment. Around 11 p.m., during the bar's peak hours, Leo was in the kitchen corner with a knife, preparing to cut the gas line. The observing bodyguards rushed in, seized the knife from him, and pinned him down, causing chaos in the kitchen. Leo had another knife hidden in his waistband, freed himself, and took a dishwashing lady hostage. Eric and I began evacuating the patrons as Leo, holding the woman, moved toward the corridor. The terrified woman pleaded, I've treated you well. Please don't do this. I have a family to care for. Perhaps moved by her kindness, Leo hesitated, pushed her away, and sprinted down the hallway, thinking he could escape through the door at the end. However, Eric had previously ordered it to be locked. With no other option, Leo forced his way into a private room and locked the door. The police arrived, surrounding the room and shouting for him to surrender. Suddenly, screams emanated from inside. The officers looked through the window and saw 2 hostages inside. Realizing he had no escape, Leo began stabbing wildly. The police tried to pry the door open. I heard familiar voices from within the room. Vivian cried out, Please don't kill me. I'll give you any amount of money you want. Sam's voice trembled. I'm the CEO of S Group. I'll pay you $1 million. No, $2 million. Do you think I can afford that now? You two are like cheating in bars so much. I'll send you to hell together. Leo, having lost his sanity, continued stabbing randomly. Let's go stop watching. I said as Eric carried me out of the bar. I sat in the passenger seat of his Ferrari as he sped away. Lighting a cigarette to steady my nerves, I said, "Let's go to the beach. I need some fresh air." "All right," Eric agreed. At the beach, once the car stopped, we walked side by side on the sand. Eric received a call from his team, informing him that Leo had been subdued. Sam and Vivian, who had been fighting in the private room, had died from excessive blood loss, while everyone else had been safely evacuated. Hearing this, I felt they deserved their fate. I hadn't anticipated Sam and Vivian reconnecting at the same time and place, ignoring the chaos outside. As the cold seawater touched my calves, Eric held my hand, pulling me closer. "Linda, don't go too far. You can talk to me about anything." I pressed my face against his chest. In the past, when I was hurting, Eric stood outside my door all night, yet I never confided in him. This time, I chose to open up. "Eric, we've both died once. I died in a car crash, and you drowned yourself after I died. Sam and Vivian died in the gas explosion at the bar." "It sounds like a fairy tale," Eric mused, but he believed it. He hugged me tighter and gently kissed my hair. "Linda, since we've been given another chance, let's cherish each other." I nodded under a star-filled sky, with the sea breeze whispering in our ears. Later, Eric's Bodyguard company thrived, and he also established a cybersecurity firm, utilizing his hacking skills to amass even more wealth. My father fully accepted Eric as his future son-in-law. During gatherings with his affluent friends, my father often boasted about Eric, saying that family background was less important than character, and how well he treated me, his daughter, like a princess. It seemed Grandpa had given him plenty of guidance. Grandpa, who still exercised daily, often spoke about wanting a grandchild for Eric to care for. After taking over the family business, I dedicated myself to learning management and achieved significant success. My father praised me, saying that having a daughter was no less than having a son. Eric purchased a 2,000 square meter villa and personally oversaw the decoration for our wedding home. His value soared, making him a sought-after individual among the powerful. He also competed in an international boxing championship, winning the title for the 7th time. On the podium, holding his championship medal, Eric proposed to me live on television. "Linda, my princess, will you marry me?" he asked. The crowd cheered, and I stood up, walked to the stage, and embraced him tightly. "Yes, I'll marry you." Eric proposed with a magnificent diamond ring, his 7 championship medals, a $2 billion dowry, and his unwavering love for me. I joyfully accepted. A year later, we had a grand wedding attended by friends and family. After the reception, Eric carried me to our new home, gently laying me on the bed. I happily wrapped my arms around his neck, smiling. "Eric, can you sleep with me tonight?" No longer holding back, he kissed me passionately. "Honey, I've waited for this day for so long."